why the whole Zelda fan hates Zelda fans thing has ever come up is it always goes back to what the game looks like. It has nothing to do with the actual games. When we talk about Zelda, when we talk about fandom, we all pretty much get along. The minute someone mentions Wind Waker or Ocarina or Twilight Princess, that's where it all goes down. Because most people who are Zelda fans today came in with Ocarina. There's probably 3 main groups of Zelda fans. The ones who came in the early days when it first got launched on the NES, the ones who came in at Ocarina of Time, and the ones who are gonna come in at Skyward Sword because there are new little gamers out there and they're all gonna play. So because each and every one of you came into the franchise at a different point in time, you all have a different idea of what Zelda should be. So we have Skyward Sword coming out and everyone freaks out because at E3, it's no longer the Twilight Princess inspired art, but this. Everyone's like, oh no, it's Wind Waker all over again. Shut up, because I used to be one of you. I used to be one of those Zelda haters. I didn't play Wind Waker until after, I think it might have been after Twilight Princess. Yeah, I think it might have been, or just before. I can't really remember. And I just didn't want to play it because it didn't look like Ocarina of Time. Hands down. That was why. And Ocarina of Time, like, I actually like the original one better than the remake. And it's pretty crappy looking, but I love it anyways. Just like we like old 8-bit stuff, even though it's crappy. But I played it and I love it and it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful game. It's not the same style, but it is graphically superior because it's a newer game. Because of each new system, the games are going to be graphically superior. You cannot deny that Skyward Sword is not graphically superior to Twilight Princess, which is a GameCube game. It came out on the Wii, but it is a GameCube game. But that's essentially where the confusion is. There are 3 issues that always get confused, and then everyone starts raging in the comments when they have no idea what they're talking about. The 3 issues are this. 1, standard definition versus high definition. 2, graphics. And 3, style. Those are all 3 very different things that interconnect together because they're a visual representation of the Zelda world. Standard definition, high definition is the resolution at which a game is played. And the Dolphin emulator really has shown the difference between what Wind Waker would have looked like and what Twilight Princess would have looked like if they were ran in HD, as opposed to the standard definition that their consoles limit them to. Because we all know the GameCube and the Wii are not high definition consoles, even though the Wii U will be. So we have this kind of pixelated, grainy footage, which we all remember as being better, but it's not. We remember it being better. Just like, that's why everyone freaked out when Twilight Princess was announced, because it was our memory's representation of Ocarina of Time. But when you actually put a standard definition of Wind Waker next to a high definition of Wind Waker, there's a big difference. They look the same. Right? They look the same. The graphics are the same. The style is the same. It's the resolution that's different. And let me tell you, my parents, they didn't spend a lot of money, but when they spent a lot of money, they spent it on a big TV. I played basically every Zelda game on a very large TV. And that meant my game was always stretched. It was always scaled out more. So it was always way more noticeable for me. And I think people on smaller TVs, you don't notice it as much. And I definitely don't notice it that much. Especially when you're at a distance from the small screen. Hence the power of the YouTube thumbnail. And you can never ever say that standard definition is better, because that's idiotic. This is the difference between watching blurry, grainy video that's been compressed and it's tiny on YouTube, as opposed to the 1080p thing. You want that because it's clearer. That's all it is. The image is a little clearer, it's not as fuzzy. That's the difference. You don't have the grain along people's faces as much. That's one of the reasons why people were like, Twilight Princess looks kind of lame. It's not. If you actually look at any of the off-screen footage, it looks better. It looks crisper on the off-screen footage than all these crappy little YouTube trailers that Nintendo has been releasing. I mean, honestly, the game, from everyone who's actually seen it in person, it looks gorgeous. It looks like a game that was made for the Wii and not the GameCube. And obviously, we see this difference with Zelda HD test. The Zelda HD test is the Wii U. That's the future, okay? See how crisp, see how clear it is? That's good. You all love the Zelda HD thing because it's realistic, right? No, you like it because it's crisp, clear quality, and the graphics are good. It's actually not realistic at all. Zelda has never looked realistic. You guys think you like Twilight Princess because it's realistic, but it's heavily stylized. Twilight Princess, because it was a GameCube game, it couldn't do things graphically at the level that a Wii game could, or obviously a Wii U game. If you actually look at stills of Twilight Princess, it looks like crap. Moving, it's not as bad, because when things move, there's a natural blur to them. So it's okay that Twilight Princess is blurry. It's also okay that Twilight Princess is blurry because they actually took advantage of the poor textures and incorporated it into the style by making everything a little blurry to emphasize the whole spiritual Twilight-esque feel of the game. I mean, there's spirits all running around all over the place. And whenever you're in like an area in Hyrule that's been consumed in the Twilight, everything's a little hazy and blurry, and it works because the style is doing that. But style is still different from graphics, because graphics are how well a texture is on the polygons, how many polygons there are, the polygon counts, how well can the actual hardware run the lighting system, are there reflections, is it actual light or is it just painted to make it kind of look like light? If you're not familiar with the actual video game pipeline, you have your models, and they have a certain number of polygons, and then they have some textures on top of the polygons. And literally, these are just painted on, but because the polygons are not always perfectly uniform, you get these weird stretches, which you see a lot in Twilight Princess. Sometimes it looks great. Like, if you look on the ground of this picture, you can see the little blue diamonds, and they're all pretty clear. This picture isn't the most high-res picture that you could probably find the game in, but, I mean, you can see that it's not blurry, it's there. Same is true with, like, the brickwork on the ground here. But then you look at these hills, and it'll look fine in some spots, but then it'll look stretched as it goes around another corner, and that's because that polygon on that face of the rock is probably a little bit bigger than the other one. If Nintendo had spent more time on the game, then, you know, those issues could have been fixed. And if the game had never come out on the Wii, then no one would have freaking cared, because it would have been great for the GameCube. When the GameCube first came out, everyone saw the Zelda test. It's horrible, that original GameCube Zelda test. It's terrible, but it got everyone excited anyways, because no one had seen that in video games yet. I mean, we had Ocarina with its triangles. The triangles are because there's less polygons. So that's an instance of graphics, and in the distance you'll see like a wall that's just a really pixelated texture. They couldn't have all this great, beautiful backgrounds that Wind Waker or Twilight Princess had, because the N64 just wasn't up to it. But obviously they compensate with gameplay and story. And another sign that Skyward Sword is, you know, better is the animation. Because it's running on the Wii and not the GameCube. I know Twilight Princess ran on the Wii, okay? It's exactly the same as GameCube was switched, and it has the motion control. It's a port, okay? Twilight Princess did a good job at having the animation there, and so did Wind Waker. They just did it in different animated styles, obviously. Wind Waker was a little more limited. And just generally the cinematics in the GameCube era obviously were better than the N64 era. N64 was like basically the first game to really try cinematics. Link's Awakening did it a little bit, but not nearly as much. In Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, things are just like, and then, you know, Majora's Mask is more like just like that over and over again. But in Wind Waker you actually have acting, and Twilight Princess you have even more acting, more emotion, it just gets you into the story. Skyward Sword, we've only seen a few of the cinematics, and it's the best so far. Since it was made for the Wii, they have more room to work with, and they can run more animation. And it's also, you know, technically loading screens, but whatever. The animation is going to be better because even though the Wii is old, it's new for Zelda, okay? There we go. That's also why the animation in the HD Wii U test is better than all of them, because it can render stuff better. And the cutscenes in Zelda are never pre-rendered, they're actually rendered right in front of you. Because of the RPG nature of the game, you might be wearing a different costume, you might have a different shield, so you can't pre-render it. Otherwise, there'd be continuity issues. A big giant argument got started in something that, I don't even know how this happened. No, the sad thing is I do know how this happened. A lot of people started going, why are they showing Link's face? Why does Link have a personality? As if we've never seen Link's face before. Ever. It's not like there are all these games showing his face. And it's not like Link has, you know, a personality that he's always had. It's not like, you know, Link isn't you. And now that brings me to style. Style is the way you want to represent an image. It has nothing to do with how clear the image is. It has nothing to do with the quality of the light, the quality of the texture, or the number of polygon counts. It has to do with, do you want to do Art Nouveau with thick outlines? Do you want thick outlines? Do you want solid colors? Do you want a more realistic look where everything looks photorealistic? Do you want to copy some other well-known styles like Impressionism, which Skyward Sword is sort of doing? You don't really see it as much on the main characters because I don't think it would really work. But if you look out in the background of some of these shots, you can really see it, and they really got the Impressionism. It's really just a bunch of splotches of color, but your mind translates that. So the splotches of color in the background are not bad graphics. That's the style they chose. And that's why Wind Waker was brilliant, because it has held up, because they picked a style that could be graphically achieved on the GameCube. While they're distinctive things, they are very reliant on... Style is very reliant on graphic capability. I mean, we couldn't have photorealistic stuff 10 years ago, and now we can because we can render it, because there's more information in reality as opposed to a more cartoony, cel-shaded game. And everyone is freaking out because, oh no, Skyward Sword, it's Zelda all over again, it's Wind Waker all over again. No, it's not. Okay, I didn't like it at first either, but it's really grown on me because it's actually the best looking Zelda game so far. That doesn't mean it's my favorite style, but it's the best looking Zelda game because there aren't stretch textures. There's tons of detail in everything. It's the most detailed Zelda game I've ever seen. If you actually look at like the upgrade shield area, the bazaar, there's all this stuff everywhere and it doesn't look bad. It looks like actual physical polygons, each with their own individual textures, as opposed to just a flat wall with a painting on it. And if you look at the mechanic dude, he has like all these belts on him, and if you actually look at the belts, it's not just a square where his tools are that has a texture paint on it, but there are actual polygons inside his tool belt to represent the tools. So it's not a GameCube game, it's graphically superior. Skyward Sword is graphically superior, get over it. What you don't like is the style. You don't like how it's cartoony because you feel like Zelda's a darker sort of story, it's a darker sort of tale. But honestly, if you look at the history of Zelda, most of the games have been bright, they've been colorful. Link has had pink hair. His hair has been pink. And you're complaining about Skyward Sword. Link's hair is not pink, guys. It's okay. It's fine. So the fact that you guys are saying that Skyward Sword is like a backstep, it's not. They just chose a different style. I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to say it before you guys get it. Hence why I've said it so many freaking times, because apparently you guys still haven't got it, because there's a huge argument in the forums. The article above exists. What are you guys doing? Stop. You're gonna get your realistic Zelda, which isn't even realistic. That's not reality. The real world does not look like that. It looks beautiful because there's like actual art design. I actually hate realistic worlds because they're just calling reality like very realistic. It's spin on reality. They represent it. HD tests, you see bright colors all over the place. The lighting is beautiful and perfect. Lighting in real life is not like that. People don't look like Link, yet you guys are eating it up and you love it and you want the Wii U Zelda game to look like that. Oh, that's not realistic. It's not. What is wrong with all of you? Just stop. It's okay. You're gonna love Skyward Sword. There's people who still hate Wind Waker, but I mean, I was a turncoat. I didn't like it. It was like, what? Whoa, whoa, whoa. What is this? And then I got over it, and now I think it's beautiful. It's not my preferred style, but it's beautiful. And Skyward Sword is pretty good looking too. And I would love for the Wii U game to look like the HD test. It's not going to because that looks too Twilight Princess, but they could definitely take elements of Twilight Princess, like they took elements from Ocarina of Time, to actually, you know, make the game. And honestly, they kind of cycle between your more realistic and your more cartoony styles anyways, so it's fine. It's okay to not have the same Zelda game every single release that you guys want. I understand that the majority of people want the Twilight Princess S style. I watched E3, it's probably the the biggest fan reaction I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm in the Harry Potter fandom, which is saying something. If we got what you guys wanted every single time, every single Zelda game would be exactly the same with no innovation and no differences. Zelda would never evolve because you guys are dwelling on past games. You have those games. No one's taking them away from you. You still have them. And eventually you'll get the style you want. You may have to wait a few years, but that means you only want it more. Which is another point. If they release the game you want it every single time, it would sort of oversaturate your personal market. Wind Waker, it's the same style as Spirit Tracks, right? It's exactly the same style. Well, actually, the concept art is a little bit different, but you cannot deny that these two games are the same style game. Look at this. Look at this. It's the same. They're exactly the same. But this is like crap. This doesn't. Especially on the Dolphin emulator. It doesn't look like crap. Why? Because the graphics are different. The style's the same, graphics are different. Aha, now you're starting to see things that you cannot deny. Your mind shall change. Hopefully, I don't really know. Because the DS is not the GameCube. DS sucks compared to the GameCube. It's all pixelated. As everything pans, you just see all these like pixelated edges appear around these polygons that I know don't look like that in the software. Because no one would ever model that. You don't see that here. You guys hate this so much. Look at it. Look at it. I'm forcing you to look at it. Okay, but yeah, that's it. Remember, resolution, graphics, and style, 3 different things. So you're allowed to hate the style. Remember that. You're allowed to hate the style. You're not allowed to say that it is graphically worse than previous games, because it's not. If it is, we'll have a big issue with Nintendo. 3 different things. Okay, that's it. I've talked way too long. Maybe I'll see you guys again, maybe I won't. Sounding off.